here, bub. See, my dog's not supposed to be up here, but he just can't help it. Let's see something. Look at him. This big baby. Oh.
Let's go, boy! ATL!
Enough playing around. Enough distraction. See, this is why I can't be at home. But anyways, this video is going to be about why I chose cardiac surgery as my ICU, and this is all personal. I am not here saying that this is the only place that you should work, it's the best, blah, 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 because honestly, this is the only place that I worked. But I will tell you why I chose it, and ultimately, I think it was the best place for me. My education, my growth, everything. CSICU, CVICU, kind of the same thing. I do want to stress the difference between a CICU, so that's just a strict cardiac ICU. For me in my hospital, the main difference was we were getting the patients fresh out of surgery. We were dealing with a lot of different devices fresh out of surgery, whereas our cardiac ICU dealt with a lot of heart failure issues. I don't remember the devices. I floated there a few times. I don't remember there being as many devices. I don't remember there like the amount of drips that they use, like the same amount that we had. Granted, every hospital is different, but that is just what I saw. On my unit, like I said, we called it the Cardiac Surgery ICU. We would get patients fresh post-op after bypasses, after valve replacements, after VAD insertions, after VAD switches, Impellas, ECMO, and we also did a lot of that stuff bedside if it was an emergent. When something goes wrong with the heart, you don't send the patient to the neuro unit. You're going to send them to the cardiac surgery unit if they're going to have surgery, even if they have a neuro issue. So we were also taking care of the patients who had issues with their heart that were pregnant. So being on that unit, you are also exposed to a lot of different issues. I guess in a way I can look at our ICU rooms as almost like a mini OR, because there was times where we opened up bedside and the rooms were turned into an OR. And that was just the nature of my unit. In my hospital, my heart hospital was a big moneymaker for the overall hospital. We took on a lot of cases. We were high volume as well. So I think that also will bump up the type of cases and the acuity. So this kind of leads into my first point as to why I chose cardiac surgery. We dealt with a lot of OR things in the ICU room. I was bedside while we were, crashing a patient, pumping, squeezing volume and blood. I was there while we would, like I said, open up bedside, have to start cannulate for ECMO, decannulate for ECMO. I was there for placement of PA catheters and A lines and FEM lines, LA lines, which go into the left atrium. I was, helping when they were pulling temporary pacemakers out of chest to transfer a patient. Those are all the different types of things that I saw on my unit. I do think there's a difference between the things that you see on, like a medical ICU. There, you are most likely transferring to the OR, whereas where I was, my ICU could turn into the OR. Being on a cardiac surgery floor, we are analyzing those rhythms every second of the day. We have to be up to date and on our information and our treatment protocols for a quick AFib change or a VTAC change or SVT change. And so now I am very confident if I was in the OR looking at a rhythm change, I would recognize that immediately. There are a lot of people that can't do that, not because they don't know how, it's just because they weren't required to as frequently as I was. On my unit, we used a variety of medications, and a lot of times we were choosing those medications alongside our surgeons and our PAs and our NPs. We were the caregivers that had a lot of autonomy compared to a lot of nurses that I've talked to and spoke to. We had a lot of standing orders. Say we were about to transfer a patient and we knew that they had enough fluid on board, So we might decide to start some vaso on them. Those types of drips we used quite frequently. We used vaso, we used neo, we used epi, norepi. Those were a common staple. And so when you think of anesthesia, those are all drugs that we use just in an IV push format and not a drip. So me working on the cardiac surgery ICU, I was exposed to all of those types of drugs. In my unit, we also did patient reversals using neostigmine and glycopyrrolate. That is something that anesthetists do now to reverse their patients after surgery. Although I was not an anesthetist, I did perform monitored anesthesia care. So if we were going to be having a scope done or bronchoscopy, it was my job to, push the Versed, fentanyl, and even though they were hooked up to the monitor and vented, that was still my job to make sure that, because they would buck and they would cough, and if I had to give more, I would give more. So that is monitored anesthesia care. That's completely different than general anesthesia, and I might do another video explaining that. But I was doing that as a nurse, which will directly translate into when I have to do that as an anesthetist. Even though we had respiratory therapists, we were the clinicians there as well. We were monitoring their tidal volumes. We were having to extubate them after they are stable from surgery. We needed to, follow protocol from that. Like, can they raise their head? Are they having adequate tidal volumes? Is their pH fine, stable, CO2 stable? For swelling, we would have to give Decadron, which is a steroid. So all of those things that we kind of had to work through, I've had to work through as a nurse. Not to say that I'm by far advanced and ready to intubate somebody, but I will honestly say that I think that I have a good base knowledge for what I'm about to be getting into. It also taught me a lot of collaborative work. We worked with a heart failure team, we worked with social work, we worked with respiratory, like I said, in a very collaborative fashion. We did interdisciplinary rounds every morning on those sick patients with our NPs, our PAs, and I thought that was very, very important for the collaborative aspect, so I got that there. Sum it all up, do I believe that cardiac surgery is one of the better types of ICU experience? Personally, yes, because of all the reasons that I named. Now, if other ICUs give you that same experience, then they're better too. The main reason for cardiac surgery was that I didn't want to give any school any doubt or any reason not to accept me. So I wanted to be able to put on my resume all of those things that I explained that I've worked. When you are choosing which ICU you want to, go into, you want to be picky because you do want to gain a good experience. You don't want to just decide, okay, well, this is the first place that opened up, if you have options. But if this is the only ICU that is available at the moment, take it. Because had cardiac surgery not opened up, I would have taken probably cardiac ICU or surgical ICU. But it just happened that that was what I was hunting for. But again, guys, you will get out of it what you want to. So remember that. And this is not a video to tell you that you should only choose cardiac surgery ICU and that all the other ones, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that for me, this is what I thought would be most beneficial to me, and looking back, it was. So if you think that cardiac surgery would be best for you, pursue that. But if it's not open and available, make sure you just get into an ICU, because overall, that's what you need. You need that ICU experience to go on and then apply to CRNA school. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Again, shoot me any questions or comments on YouTube, comment on Instagram, messages on Instagram, whatever. Snapchat, I always try and answer them for you guys. So have a good new year, you guys.
Yeah. Oh.